quite a detailed landscaping.
Yeah.
Gardens.
Yeah. Because there are still a lot of trees, and obviously...
The shrubs more than trees, though, aren't they? They aren't full-grown oaks and stuff like
Right,
that.
okay.
So
anything would be better than what's there now. It's such a mess.
I would imagine for the neighbours,
Well,
the pests.
But we've got to make sure what goes in is right.
Well, exactly.
I think what's gone in, if you look at the plans, is exceedingly sensible and makes
Yeah, I think it's
use
good.
of potential for site. So
And I think our observation was that they're 1980s style, so they're not big, modern, cool, and they're in keeping with that road. So our feeling was that the design was
Yeah, I
at
think
80
so.
that road.
And the houses opposite, probably the, yeah, you can line it down.
They're not very high, are they?
No.
no.
No, you don't operate it.
So that's a proposal that this application is accepted on the basis of property improvements, new properties, and it develops really what is a poor area in the middle of the village.
Yes, I think
An
it's
additional
a great
amenities.
improvement.
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes.
I've summed it up, design in support of the local street scene. So that gives you the bit you were saying about the retro design.
Yeah.
And then obviously improvements to the overall dimension of the property.
Yeah.
So that's right. Yeah.
All those in favour? That's brilliant. That's unanimous. Okay. Can you get Bob back in? Can you get Bob? Thanks, David. Right. Activities. Footpaths.
Oh, sorry.
The,
I'm on the way.
sorry.
You go first.
Just say the footpath down Body's Lane to the right, first style, first gate rather,
Yeah.
is still in a wobbly state. And also it's very deep for old people like me to get over it.
Yeah, you did, that's mine though, isn't
Yes,
it?
about 3 foot step, really.
Yeah, so
Footpath down.
Down Body's Lane,
Yeah.
go right, the first gate you come to.
Yeah, the first gate.
Yeah.
And then the second one, is it the second one?
Yeah,
First one.
those are on our,
Yeah.
yeah, that's on
A
our
bit like
to-do
on the
list.
right time.
Yeah, it's on our to-do list. Yeah.
The gate going into Sheila's field, you know what I mean, don't you?
Opposite the tennis court.
Yes, opposite the tennis court, okay?
Is it still
We've had this
sticking?
problem, yes, it's awful. I mean, to really and truly, I don't know, I thought I was going to have to climb over today. It's really, something, either the thing's dropped, but it's really, really is stiff. And it's quite hard to even pull it back. But it does look, it needs looking at.
I'll get a couple of that.
Yes.
Tried it. You give it a
Probably
yank
the
and it's
post.
all right. But
Yeah, but you're stronger than me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Bob.
Yeah, during the parish surgery earlier, we had a member of the public came in and reported a couple of things on footpaths. One was the same one that Brian's mentioned about this
Several
style.
times.
Yeah. So was wondering if that could be added to the stoning when we get that sorted. There was also a comment made that the path north of the reservoir, which I think we've already spoken to the landowner, is very overgrown, and he was
Even more overgrown now.
yeah, so he was aware who the landowner was, but I said we were following that up. And the other thing was that where there's the car park on the top of the knoll at the moment, there's a footpath that runs from there to Windy Ridge. And at the moment, it's not signposted very well. There's a lot of walkers not knowing which side of the drive to Windy Ridge they should be on. So I was asking if we could have a word with Chrissy's to get it maybe waymarked.
Yeah, that could be all part of our future development of that. The other thing on footpaths is, I don't know if you've been up around the back of the church, but
Yes.
during Owen's holiday, we had to get something done about that path. And we used Steve Chick to clear it all out. And it cost us, he did right from the road all the way up to the first corner where you turn right to start to go up the knoll. It cost us £720 to get that done. And yes, I got a quote from Steve. Bob went to look at the work involved. I discussed it with Malcolm and we agreed that it should go ahead.
It's made a very good job.
Correct.
Much better.
Yeah, everybody said.
It is, it's much better.
Yeah, okay, it was expensive, but it's expensive because we haven't done it for
Yeah, a long time.
a long, long time. And I think that, with your permission, I'd like to ask Owen or ask whether we can now pay Steve Chick because he has done the work, and I'd be pleased if we could pay that. So can I have your...
Well, it can be general, actually.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Payment. So can we deal with that one now? Can we pay Steve Chick, please, £720? Thank you. On the footpath round the footpath up to the knoll and the footpath across the Bakersfield now, round to the tanks, are key footpaths, and I think we've got to take a view on how we manage those paths. Jason can't manage them. Steve Chick, I don't think is in a position to do it because of his personal circumstances with his father who's poorly. And so I think we need to get hold of a contractor who would maintain those paths for us. And it may well be that we have to go to a Heather Allsop and say, look, this is your responsibility, but we'll help you, but we want some contribution. And I think that's the only way we're going to make sure these paths are properly maintained.
Is that the new owner?
Yes.
Yes. Well, they probably don't know.
Where exactly is that?
Round towards the reservoir.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
around there.
Yeah, it's a really well used path.
Yeah, it is.
And they did clear a very bad area, but it's got bad again. It really
It's
needs.
not too bad, though, is it?
Okay,
You
no,
can get
it's
through
bad.
it.
That's not like it is.
It-
I'll follow you through.
No,
I never got that.
Yeah. So I think probably we should try and secure a contractor to look at those two paths
yeah, I
for
think
us.
that's a good idea.
And then we know that they're going to be maintained. So we'll
Yeah, now, we have got details of other contractors from when we went to tendering. And maybe one of those would be better coming up with it because they'd be keen to get the tendering possibly eventually. So they've got an opportunity to prove
Yeah,
themselves,
and we can also ask Nichols Facilities now as
Yeah.
well. Now we know what needs to be done.
haven't
What are we doing about the, in the horse field, the one we were going to
David, I had a chat with David, and really he's up to his ears with work,
yeah, I heard that.
and so we need to see whether another contractor
Yeah,
will take it on. David's going to recommend somebody that we could approach.
we really wanted it now because if it gets wet in the field,
Well,
you know,
we were
weren't
going to
able
do it
then.
this time last year,
Yeah.
and then it rained on us, didn't it?
Because it will get bad. It will get bad again.
Oh yeah, but
And really, you can't really close it, can you?
no.
But it is a bit of a mess.
Yes.
I know we've been going to do it a long time,
Yes.
but now if we could get somebody to do it now, before the wet weather comes.
Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's. I mean, David's been. He has tried, but he's terribly busy, as you know.
I know,
And I
seeing
think
them on the
that,
tractor every day.
Yeah.
Well, this time last year it would have been fine, it's just that I've got so much on and that
Yeah.
it's a bit of a different situation this time last
Yeah.
year.
No, there's no problem, David.
No.
We'll, don't worry about it. Okay. Does that conclude footpaths more or less? I think. your strategy. Okay. Highways, Malcolm, anything on highways?
No, there's nothing to report. I've not had any contact with anybody regarding that.
Thank you. Sorry, Brian? Oh, sorry,
Was only, again, member of the public today at surgery raised two issues relating to could we flag up with hedge owners, particularly on Station Road, in the vicinity of what used to be Redmond's old property, the four that are sort of set back from a shared entrance. It's perennial that comes up opposite South Brent Close.
Oh, yes.
Again, it's coming over the pavement.
I wrote
So
a couple
narrow,
of years
yeah,
ago.
isn't it?
Yeah. And then also the other one that's highlighted was as you come into the village on Ham Road, on your left-hand side, it was pointed out that in the past, the telegraph poles were on the edge of the road and the hedge was behind it. The telegraph pole is now in the middle of the hedge because the hedge has come so much further into the road, and it was just again to flag up to the owners along there.
So I'm coming from Burnham
Yeah.
or Barrow
Remember?
down there, is that on the right?
Past our sign saying Brent Knoll,
Yes.
Yeah.
and as soon as you meet the first house, from the first house on the left-hand side, the hedge sticks out, and it's got really bad because on the right-hand side, there was a sort of bit of a pull-in, has now been claimed by the end house. So if you're in anything big, lorry, tractor, whatever, there is nowhere now for any vehicles to go. So if I go along there and I meet something, it's gridlock because you cannot pass where you could. But if the hedge was back, I reckon you could. But everyone trims the hedge. They trim the edges off, they don't cut it hard
Cut it
enough
into
back.
the hedge, yeah.
I mean, it might be a mess for a year, but
Yeah.
They call that
But they
wing
have
mirror
to
alley.
with-
yeah.
There's a 30 mile an hour sign is also buried in the hedge as well.
Mm.
Right, okay. Is that whose hedge is it? Is it a field hedge or is it a...
It's a house.
Garden hedge.
Yeah.
Thousands of them.
So we've got a right to...
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't know the name or name of the house?
I can give you the name of the house.
Yeah. Okay.
The one that does the speed watch.
Oh yes, I know who that is.
Yeah. Because they cut, as you come in from Barrow, they have cut the hedge, haven't they, on the left-hand side, as you go. I noticed somebody done that, because I got caught down there this afternoon. But, okay.
Can I just say, at the last meeting, I complained about the hedge at 143, and I think the following day or the day after, two blocks were there and cut it. We don't know who did it.
Brilliant service, I'm not taking credit for it, mate.
Who did it?
Perhaps I should.
We have, brilliant.
Don't know who did it.
It's growing again now.
I'm glad my hedge didn't come up tonight.
I wonder, did we pay for that to be done?
No, I've not, no, we don't too many bills or anything for it, no, no.
Coincidence then,
Hmm.
because it's uninhabited house.
We need to find out who it is, and do a few more jobs for us.
Yeah.
Okay, who did the Village Green report this month? It's Andrea's.
You've got Angie's, and she passed the report to you, has she
She
passed it
hasn't
on to you?
passed it through yet.
Right, okay.
Okay. All right, so who will be doing it next
I'll
month?
tell you.
Is it me?
No,
September,
I think-
generally,
I'm
sometimes
not sure.
it
Let's
is.
have a look. Who is it now?
Oh,
No, it's Andrea from today.
It's Andrew from today.
Andrew
Andrew's
does
September, actually.
So Andrea
So-
won't be doing September, and she won't be doing October, because she won't be here, will she?
No, she's already asked, I think.
She's
asked
going
me to do the October one for you.
I'll do the October one.
So do you want me to do
Yeah, I
September,
think that's
and
what I
then
was thinking, yeah.
Andrea can do mine?
Yeah.
I'm confused now because the list you sent out, I'm down for October.
Which is your own ones, isn't it?
But you just said that you're doing
I'll do,
October.
Andrew's asked me to do one for her, so I've agreed to send it.
Well, I think she means the September.
Oh, right, okay.
So you're doing Andrew's September one, so then Paul's doing October.
Okay.
That's okay, yeah.
September.
And on that list, because I put surgery details down as well, so it's all in one list.
Okay.
Hopefully you found it.
Okay. All right, play area. Anything from GB? When are they going to do the...
Well, I spoke to Colin Lewis, they've had material issues like so many other people. It is on their sort of top priority list, but he doesn't think it'll be done for another 5 or 6 weeks. So it's just materials, a short of, as everybody seems to be on everything. But he was glad I jogged his memory because, of course, it had slipped down the list a bit, and now we pushed it up a bit, hopefully.
Can I just report one thing, which was I had a call from a resident because somebody had kicked off the back of the climbing frame. As you go up where the ladder is, you go onto like a platform, and at the back of that there's a wooden piece, and that had been.
Is it a bar?
It was two metal bars with a solid bit of wood on it. Yeah, so that had been completely kicked off. So I when I was up there, I rang you, Colin, and just mentioned to you that I was up there, and we had I got Paul Dixon up there just basically he put it back, he replaced it, screwed it back on because it was just a bit dangerous. But so that's in hand.
Yeah.
But it had rotted quite badly. The wood, it was weak. I think someone obviously gave it a kick, but it was enough just to push it off.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Nothing from you. Speed. We haven't got any speed data from.
From the machine.
From the machine?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I
We
must
did have
ask
one
Paul.
lot, didn't we, from Nicholson?
I'll ask him again.
So just the latest one we want
Yeah.
is the August one.
Yeah, he has been on holiday.
Yes.
And just to update you, the SID on Burton Road is once again showing signs of being awkward. I've taken it up with SG already and had a pretty, well, lousy response, I suppose is the word. But Stuart was going to check that he had put a fully charged battery in there. And if anybody's going around Burton Road, if they could check it, see whether it's working. I haven't been.
It was working today.
Was it? That's interesting. Okay. Well, if it's working, then the next problem we've got is downloading the data, which they will address. So,
Can I make a request that they simplify it? It's so much that you can't possibly absorb it all, can you? Well, I can't.
what's that?
The information they send to us.
Well, SG has sent us.
Yeah, well, we had some.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
that was
well,
the other one.
Yeah, we'll filter it out.
Yeah.
We'll filter it out. So it gives you an indication what's happening with the new unit in particular. Yeah. Okay. Bob,
On
I'm
that,
sorry.
I just ask if it's at all possible, and again, sort of following on from Brian, I've had a couple of requests from people in the village who've seen the sign up and said, oh, what's the information coming off it? Is there any way that Owen could do a bit maybe for the BKM and we could do a little report as, obviously it's not people's details, but just the sort of number of vehicles going in and out and then sort of
Average
speeds.
speed.
Yeah,
Time of day.
it generates some interest in the village, I think.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have a name and shown them, Brent Knoll knew there.
I did have someone volunteering to stand next to it with a camera.
Well, I don't mind admitting it, but they caught me at Pink Cottage and I had a letter from the police. So it does work, the system does work. Yeah. There's an image.
Council that reminder.
Yeah. And I wasn't going fast. Bob, your report.
Yeah, just a couple of things really from county and district. The normal coronavirus update, you've probably all seen that Sedgemoor has been topping the polls in the number of cases across the country. We're currently still up in the 600s. The feedback we've had from the health team at county is primarily there are a couple of issues. One was the hotspot in Sedgemoor has been Bridgewater. That's where the worst area has been by far. And they attributed it to there were a couple of outbreaks in quite large sort of factory units where a lot of people ended up infecting each other. It also then got worse in Bridgewater because I was chatting to one of the councillors at Sedgemoor actually manages the McDonald's, and he lost almost his entire staff because they all went out partying at the nightclubs in Bridgewater, and that went round the young people who were out like wildfire, and they were all then off work with COVID. So those are the key things that have attributed it in Bridgewater. There is some evidence of it in the tourist areas as well, not to the level of Bridgewater, but there has been an influx of COVID brought into the area. But again, it seems to be mainly families bringing it with them and taking it away. It hasn't been staff passing it around from their track and trace. It doesn't appear to be staff that are the issue. It seems to be the punters themselves, because they were worried that if it got into the staff, then they'd be passing it on to everybody. But whatever they're doing seems to be working at the moment to not be seeing that happen. But numbers are high, so we still need to be careful. In terms of the vaccination programme, we're now up to 94.5% of adults in Somerset have had their first vaccination, and it's 85% have had the two. So we're ahead of the national curve on that. The other big thing obviously has been going on with local reorganisation of local government. State play on that at the moment is, as we reported before, the One Somerset is the way that it's going. So it will be one council covering the whole of Somerset. There are obviously discussions going on between the 4 districts and the county as to how they bring all their departments together and staff. There's also a big discussion going on at the moment about what the electoral setup will be. The original plan that the county had put forward was that for the elections taking place next year in 22, there would be the 55 divisions that are currently the county seats, and each of those would have 2 councillors, so that would give you 110. They were aiming to bring that down to 100 later on, after there'd been a proper boundary review. So the government accepted the One Somerset with no revisions, and then at the first meeting they then said, but we don't like your electoral proposals, we think you should do a review now, and by the elections in May 22 you should have completely different seats and draw those up in time. Now normally a boundary review would take 12 to 18 months, so this is obviously pretty quick. There will not be public consultation on it because there isn't time, and basically what they've said is, you, the districts in the county, come up with a plan, give it to us, the government, and we'll decide whether we think it's the right one or not. So we were advised by county this week that the discussions so far are that they're going to come up with 3 options. One is the plan A, which the government said they didn't like anyway, because they still think that's the right way to go in the short term. Plan B is for 100 members, which was what they were aiming for to go originally. And Plan C is what the government were pushing for, which is they said you need less councillors, so they want 85. But at the moment they can't go back to electoral polling areas, which is what you normally build it from. You can only build it on the existing district or county seats. So there is a calculation going on at the moment. We don't know how it's going to work out, but we should be finding out hopefully within the next few weeks. And then we'll find out whether there's going to be an election in 22, and that will feed into one of the items that we've got on our agenda for later for the parish. Other thing just on sort of environmental stuff, just a quick update in that you may have noticed there's a lot of street lights been changing from the old sodium lights to now the LED lights. There's about 50% of the street lights are being done. The decision was made that we weren't going to replace everything immediately. We would do it as it was coming to the end of its life and then go over. It now means that we're saving something like £100,000 a year on electricity, so far with half done. So obviously you can see by the time it's all done that'll be substantially more. And that is continuing its rollout, and they reckon that saves something like 9,000 tonnes of carbon per annum, which obviously all goes to help, I guess. But other than that, happy to take any questions on district or county at the moment.
We had a message about the parish council elections being...
Yeah.
It's on the agenda, right?
That's
Thanks.
later on.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you. Okay, financial matters. First of all, we need to. Oh, well, do you want to do it?
Just Steve check basically, maintenance, £720, which we've already agreed, so we've covered that there. Obviously, a lot of the payments over the summer have been made with the sort of delegated powers that Colin, Malcolm and myself had. which haven't amounted to huge amounts, frankly. They've been mostly nominal payments. The Zoom, I think the Zoom payment, we had to renew our Zoom £143, which we decided was a good idea to renew it, because we may want to use it for informal meetings during the year, even though we can't use it for public meetings. But yeah, that's basically it. The Scribe accounting system, hope the reports you're getting from that make good sense. It's certainly a nice,
You're happy with the way it's going?
yeah, it's a doddle to operate, I have to say. It's one of the best things we ever did actually, was change it, because it does everything it says. And it produces, you were saying about data just now, I mean, the amount of reports that Scribe produces is phenomenal. You know, to be honest, if I started sending them all out to you, you'd soon start yawning.
I like to look at the percentage of the money spent
Yes,
compared
It's
to
the budget.
the percentage on months gone by.
Yes.
or years.
yes.
And it's pretty close. isn't it?
I think 7 months in 6 or something like that, 6 and 7, I can't remember which it was, but yeah, no, it's working really well. And that, combined with the internet banking system, seems to be really brought our finances in the 21st century. Yeah.
Well done, Aaron, thank you. Is that everything on finance?
It is, everything on finance, yeah,
Okay,
everything's
well
done.
Unupdated matters, I suggest we just carry those forward unless there's any. I think the defib may come up later if we
Yes.
develop the toilet blocks. Yeah.
Chairman, could I try and just take advantage of the 20-mile-an-hour limit one?
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm still told that it's working its way through, but it has been delayed again because of the various hold-ups in highways. On that front, just a quick update. I've been notified that they are planning to do some roadworks up on the A38 on the 8th or 9th of September, which involve putting up speed limit signs. So I think we're fairly imminent to getting the 40-mile-an-hour up on the A38. So that's almost with us. And again, in a similar vein, hopefully this Friday we're finally doing the Burton Row surface dressing. It's the contractors obviously are fairly pressed at the moment in terms of the number of staff they've got off for various reasons, including COVID. So there has been a knock-on effect, which is why it started off on the 14th of August and has been through about 4 or 5 different date changes since. I was told today they think this is the final change, so it should be the 3rd this Friday.
Just as, thinking about that also, have they given you a date from SDC for the starting collection of green bins?
Yes. Our first one will be around, well, it starts the week of the 13th, but it'll then be on our normal cycle, so I'm not exactly sure what the date is,
Yeah,
but it is on the diary of the Brent Knoll News.
13th of September. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's great. Any correspondence?
No correspondence other than the copious amounts of stuff I've sent to you by email.
Thanks very much for the guidance notes you sent out to us all.
Oh, what?
That's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
useful.
so I thought that probably,
Yeah.
very often you come to a meeting, you're actually not quite sure what you're being asked to consider, really. It's on the agenda, but there's no detail.
Very good, thank you. And using those notes is under matters 9. Bob, do you want to lead on community shop, where we are?
Yeah, I think just to give an update for members as to where we've moved on since the last meeting, where we decided we were looking at moving forward with the plans for the shop. You may well have heard that there has been moved, or you've probably seen, there's a sold board outside the front of the village shop and the house attached to it. That is likely to see that completed probably by the end of September. So at that point, the shop will be needing to find itself an alternative venue. There have been a number of discussions that have gone on, and in fact there was a meeting last night of the 3 sort of parties that sort of have an interest potentially of the parish council with 3 representatives, the parish hall with 3 representatives, and the village shop had 3 representatives as well. I think it would be fair to say it was a positive meeting and a very different feel than sometimes. The shop put forward a number of proposals basically to say what a possible temporary solution could be. They are looking at obtaining a porta cabin for the short term, basically to see them through that period between the loss of the shop and the creation of a new venue. They had a visit from Porta Cabin themselves to look at possible locations that they could put it in, and they looked at the area behind the hall, they looked at possibly on the green, they looked at the village car park, and for various reasons, primarily to do with just the physical placing of a heavy shop from the back of a lorry, they felt that it wasn't appropriate to put it on the patio or on the village green, because both of those would require considerable expenditure, which would be lost money. And so the proposal was that it should be sited on the car park. Initially, the first proposal resulted in the loss of 3 car parking spaces, and in the discussion last night, there was an alternative put which resulted in the loss of 2 car parking spaces instead. And the suggestion would be that it would actually potentially sit, as you look at the village green, on the left-hand side of the car park, which is the slightly wider side, immediately to the left of the entrance gate to the village green, and it would not obstruct either the vehicle access or the pedestrian access onto the green. Obviously, so there is a request from the shop committee to ourselves as the parish council to say, would we be prepared to see that happen? The further request to us as the parish council is also that they would need to power the building, and so they would like to take the power from the public toilets. They would arrange, as they have electrical contacts with electrical contractors, they could put that safely across to the other side of the green to feed that building. They've also asked some requests of the parish hall as well, which they'll be taking to their meeting this month, which relates to the use of Wi-Fi, potential some storage space, and also the potential use of the patio for cafe events when the shop is running. But I think that sort of gets us to where we were last night.
Thanks, Bob. Yes, so, yes.
Well, we have to inform Mr. Slocum if it can go there.
Part of the process of this would be that the shop would actually have to apply for temporary planning permission. So that would have to happen, and it was also stated by their chairman last night that he would actually make contact directly with the neighbours all around the site.
And
They would also landscape
there.
No, we haven't even got there. There's no need, sorry, there's no need for the business plan at the moment. What we're going to ask you to agree to tonight is permission to allow us to go back to the shop committee and say, yes, we are in agreement that you can apply for planning permission to put a porta cabin in the car park. It will be 8 metres by 3 metres, and we've sized it up, and it will be on a temporary basis, and that's the permission we're going to ask you for tonight. Do you want to add anything to it?
Just that they were, the team that were there last night were talking about respecting all the neighbours, putting in planting to support the image of it. It was a very constructive meeting.
We don't know what temporary means, do we, really?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose.
Well, we've started the process. If you remember, we set 5 conditions for the parish council, and we've established the first condition, well, we're in the process of, and condition 2 has now shown itself insofar as the future of the shop. So we are merely working with the shop committee and the village hall and it's good that everybody's working together and everybody's very sensible in their approach.
The process is quite long. The approval process for the loan, that went in straight after the last meeting, and we're still waiting for SALC to approve, to go through to the community secretary to get approval. We've got 3 stages. We've got SALC to agree that the application is correct. 2, we've got to get approval from the community secretary, and 3, we've got to apply for the loan. So there's 3 stages, we're not even got to the first stage yet, actually, so we're quite a long way off of that process, but hopefully by the time we get to the autumn season, we should start to make some progress. I have spoken to South and I've not had a reply back yet from Justin.
Bob, did you want to add?
Yeah, I was only going in terms of Brian's comment about temporary. If they go for a temporary planning permission, it's likely to be a sort of 3-year planning permission. As far as they're concerned, they want it to be as short as they can because they will be renting this building, they won't be buying it. So the longer it goes on, the longer their expenditure continues. So they're keen to see it move as quickly as it can, but they'll have to fit in obviously with our timetable on that front.
And it's fair, Bob, to say that the team also expressed support for the current plan that the parish has already agreed. So they are very much in with the idea that we approved last time.
Yes.
Would the power feed into this temporary cabin be metered?
Well, yeah, we know how much it costs us to run that toilet block. Owen,
Pretty consistent,
Pretty-
year in, year out.
years.
So,
So, yeah, we just charge. Yeah,
I mean, they basically said to us last night that they
Yeah.
would work from our average figure, and anything above the average figure, they would pay.
yeah. And they will pay for all the electrical installation work, etc. So it's all, it won't cost us anything. All they are asking us to do is permission for them to apply for planning and get a porta cabin sited there.
Do we know if there's a new owners of the shop, of the house?
No,
Are they local?
no idea.
Right.
Okay, that's the proposal, please. That we support the shop in getting a porta cabin, getting approval to be sited up on the car park. It's 8 metres by 3 metres, and they will take an electrical supply from the existing toilet block, and they will pay their electrical usage. Can I have a seconder for that, my proposal? David, all those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. So
Okay.
you can,
Can we go back to
Back to Jamie.
the shop meeting? Shop
yeah,
meeting.
okay.
There is a set of minutes which I took last night at this meeting, which I will forward on to you so you see what was discussed. Particularly useful there, I think, is Jamie's position statement where she outlines the background to it.
Okay, the next one is entitled the village contract, or if you like, Jason's contract. John has done quite a lot of work on this and tried to, if you like, bring it up to date and include the small things that where they were a bit vague, and he sought to encompass them in a new document. You have been circulated with it. This, bless him,
It's a new contract,
has drawn up this new contract.
which is agreed on and so forth.
Yeah, which what we're going to ask, forgive me, John, if I steal your thunder. Is that all right? But what we've agreed is that we'll ask Jason to, all the activities are numbered down there, and so what we're going to ask him to do on a monthly basis is just to report to us on one of these sheets what he's actually done, because we say we want 8 cuts here, and we want 20 cuts on the green, and we want 8 cuts in Church Lane. It's not that we don't trust Jason to do this work, but it would be a good indicator to us to see what he's actually doing, which has always been a bit of a concern to some councillors. So I think it brings it all up to date. It will be a signed contract as well, so Jason knows exactly where he is. Bob has pointed out a couple of amendments which I think have been incorporated.
Yeah, but I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
and that will be submitted now.
Can you
Yeah,
liaise
so-
with?
The thing is that this contract is a two-way contract, so Jason has to agree to what we're asking him to do. And the only thing I would point out is the fact that Jason has always maintained, although we've had a number of cuts per area on the contract, he has often, on occasion, done more than that during the year. If it's been a very heavy growing season, for example, he has done more than those that have been prescribed. So therefore, we are, to some extent, putting the other side of the coin, we are actually possibly reducing some cuts in some cases, because he might have done more had he not been contracted perhaps quite as rigidly as we're wanting to do. Quite reasonable, we should contract him and we should get him to sign what he's agreeing to. But there is also, like all things, a little bit of a downside as well, in as much as he may not, if he's going to do extra cut, for example, he might say, well, I'm going to bother do that, I've done my A for this year, and leave it uncut. So you have to bear that in mind as well. So obviously Colin and I will meet up with Jason, I think.
What I'd like is your permission to, first of all, to accept this contract that you've been presented with, and John's done a lot of work on it, and thank you, John. Some slight amendments may have to be made, but essentially what we'd like is your permission to accept this, and then for Owen and I to meet with Jason next, I've said before the next meeting, probably at the surgery time, before the next meeting, to go through it and explain, so he's fully aware of what he's being asked to do, and sign the contract. Because if you remember, Jason did say, could we extend his contract so that he had, because he's got to buy a new kit, a new mowing machine in particular, which he obviously uses in the churchyard in particular, and on the green. He's got to buy a new kit, and therefore he wanted to be able to demonstrate to the people that he goes for his loans, his finance, that he's got continuity of work. And I said, yes, subject to approval from you, this is what we will do. I'm sure he'll hold his prices. It's to his advantage too. And I think we're in a great position to have an extended period of good price for a contract. And you've seen how much services cost by, the cost for clearing the path behind the village hall. So that's, I'd like your permission to do that today, please. Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, so we've got some work to do there. Thanks, John, for your input. And if there are any amendments, can you give them to Owen?
No, I will. There are two small amendments to be made, which I will do, and I will reproduce that. You were talking about the number of cuts per season. When we've been contemplating this, it has been argued that perhaps, along the verges, that there are 8 cuts per season. But of course, it's very difficult to write this down specifically in a task list, because everything is so much dependent on the weather. And this year, you probably should have done it twice a month. Quite how you incorporated that, I do not know. But clearly we'll have to make some allowance for the fact, or make some way of asking Jason to do a bit of extra work if the growing season has been like this year. But I mean, you either write it into the contract that he has a bit more, or you have to ask him to do a bit more if the growing season is bad. So it's probably better to do it that way around.
He could probably tell us if he's doing a bit more.
Well, it needs the intelligent solution by the intelligent man. Is that right, Headmaster?
Are you saying that that's you and we're all homeschooled?
Well, probably yes.
That's exceedingly generous.
Just do what you're told.
Well, we know where we stand. Oh, hang on, let's just pause the meeting.
Can I just have for 3 seconds? I tried to play football with my son numerous times this year on the field. The grass has been too long to play football. at certain times of the year. Just to throw that into the mix. I know it's been a weird year with weather. One of the lovely benefits is the field here to play sports, and certainly the grass has been impossible to play football on. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that's the we all may as well go home, John. You take over.
Have you lost your train of thought?
I don't think I had any. The parish council elections, Bob, do you want to, or Owen?
No, I mean, I think it's down to, it's very much over to you, really, because SAP want a consultation. They've put out a consultation as to what our views may be, as to whether we want an election in the usual time, 2023, or whether we want to bring it forward, that's right, or bring it forward in line with county, the new county structure of elections. That's really what, in essence, they're saying, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, Chairman, in terms of where they are at the moment, it looks like, and nothing is definite yet because we still haven't got the new unitary, but it looks like what they will probably be looking at is the first election to the unitary will probably be a 5-year term to then get it back on the old cycle again of 4 years beyond. So, I mean, my own view was it felt a bit of a cheat, really, that 300 odd councils are being asked to change their election dates to fit in with one new council that's being created. And I understand there are the issues about the funding, but then perhaps the unitary should help subsidise the parishes and the towns for their election the following year. I mean, it may well impinge on, obviously, plans that are going forward that we may well have as a parish council that are in train to be dealt with over the next couple of years. It may well be that we'll not hear after the election next time, so those plans might suddenly change. So ultimately it is up to members to decide whether they wish to go this way. As my understanding is, SALC are being asked to do this to then feed back ultimately to the government through the county and the new unitary to say how do the parishes and towns across Somerset react to having their electoral term cut short. So it is important that we send back a message, whether we're either happy with it or we're not.
My feeling is that given where we are, in particular as a parish council, going through this, in particular with the shop and our loans, it would be detrimental for us to have an election next year. I think we should see out our term as we normally would do. So my proposal is that we reject it and say we want to stay as we are now. And I think probably a lot of other councils will stay the same.
I think so. I think it's a good point, really, because I can just see a situation where we're halfway through the shop project and suddenly an election. So and you suddenly got people who retire or whatever, and new people coming in. It's just going to throw the whole continuity thing completely out the window, frankly.
It's ironic to the unitary being elected and that costs so much money in the first place.
So we've got a time limit to reply.
Yes, I think it's coming out very shortly, I think, in the next week or so.
Well, and do we have to give a reason why we want to stay as we are?
I think we should just say that all our councillors would prefer to serve the time for which we've been elected, because there are things that objectives that we all have, and we need to achieve those objectives, and then we can, if you like, stand down and offer ourselves for election once again. But I think that would be my proposal. So I don't know if you're all in agreement with that? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. Can we respond on that basis?
I'll respond on that tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, well, you fill in with it. Mike Diamond has offered the car park at the top of Hill Lane, which you know where people park to walk up the Knoll or go through Bakersfield or whatever, has offered it to the parish council for the sum of £1. And we in turn will have to pay his conveyancing fees and of course our own. I think it's a really generous offer and a wonderful opportunity to create something up there that is, you know, we could get it sorted. It would be a proper car park. Sorry?
Fit for purpose.
Fit for purpose, yeah, instead of a muddy quagmire. So with your permission, or sorry, what I would like is your agreement as a parish council that we accept this very generous offer and we contact his lawyers. We'll go and see Mike to say thank you, because he's not very well, as you know, and I think that's a really generous offer. So that's my proposal.
We haven't got £1 in the budget for this, by the way.
All those in favour? That's brilliant.
I'm
Sorry,
in the process of just trying to get some idea of costs from Charles Fleming at Holland Steering. He wants the answers to a few questions, which I said, well, I'll try and get those once the council has agreed to proceed. So I'll speak to, with your permission, I'll speak to the agents and try and get answers to one or two of the questions that have been posed by Charles, and he'll give us a price for doing the legal fees. I would imagine, I don't know, I would imagine we're probably talking £400 or £500 per party, so we're probably talking about £1,000 in total to do legal fees. I would think. I don't know.
Small price to pay for the car park.
It's 10p each in Colin Place
No, I think it's a brilliant offer. We could really do something with it.
Ideal place for the shop.
Yeah.
That's very quick of you, Mark. Well done. Okay, that's great stuff. Move forward. Queen's Jubilee celebrations. I don't know what Village Green, Village Hall are doing anything, are they at all? Or?
I think at the moment it's everyone's sort of playing after new claw. It's no one's quite sure who's doing what. So I know that other parishes have had notices come through about what's happening nationally for things like lighting of beacons and all things of that nature, which I would assume we would be involved with. I think that the parish halls certainly are prepared to get involved with doing something possibly. I think last Jubilee there was a picnic in the park that was organised between various groups. And I think the main reason for getting it on the agenda tonight was to try and set the ball rolling, almost for an appeal to go out to groups to say, can we all come together and find out what we are doing? There are rumours that parts of Burton Row are already planning street parties, but we just don't know who's doing what and where, so it would be worth getting everyone's heads together.
Well, I think as a parish council we would be interested to meet with the Village Hall or any other organisations to see if we can help in any way. Yeah. So
It's a PK thing, isn't it?
I think that would be useful, and also I think the last Jubilee we put aside a small budget that people could bid to for grants, which might be something we need to look at our budget round later on in the year.
yeah, I mean, it might well be, John. I'm sorry, go on. I am merely
Jubilee celebrations normally, the last 100 years, normally involved a beacon on top of the hill. And therefore, it's a good idea, but we tried that with East Brent last time, they didn't want to know. Clearly what we ought to do is have a decent liaison with East Brent to get the beacon jointly organised or something. That this stick in the mud attitude, which you do get from East Brent, is unfortunate. We could lead it and get on with it.
yeah.
I don't know, has Peter still got the brazier? Because I think David, you took it
Yeah,
out last
I'm
time,
going to
didn't
take
you?
it up.
I mean,
But we'll need to get National Trust.
Well, we need to get that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when we tried it last time, East Brent said, no thanks, we're doing it by ourselves.
But also, English heritage is English heritage you had to do.
I did have to do with the National Trust for the Worst. Definitely.
Yeah.
You could wear your 1952 suit.
English heritage didn't want anybody to burn the grass.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, I think we really ought to do it, because things have been done traditionally since about 1889.
Yeah.
I was also going to suggest, John, just to, we've got various, if you like, engravings or stones engraved, which for various occasions, should we be thinking along those lines?
Well, it's very simple to do, because we have very good liaison with Wells Cathedral stonemasons, so to get it organised properly. If I wanted to do a commemorative stone of some sort, that's not very difficult, you just pay for it. We've got to decide where we're going to put it.
And perhaps maybe that should be something that the parish council could do.
Well, because the 95th birthday is, or whatever, the 90th birthday is just outside, then we had that young.
Is there space on there to actually put another plaque, maybe? Have a look at it. Have a look at it.
We put a plaque, of course, up on the
Yeah.
main stone
Yeah.
for her birthday. Clearly, if there is to be a beacon, then we need to do something on the hill to commemorate it in some way. Engraving the original sandstone is not easy because it's eroding badly anyway, but it's a pity that we can't get any cooperation with East Brent. I mean, for goodness sake.
Well, we have now.
Last year.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to
Try
think
again.
about it this year.
Try again.
And just say, look, this is really what we ought to
You
do.
go to this.
It's a joint thing.
Well, we'll take this up.
I'm sure Carl would just...
But I think that we should take it up, because
Yeah,
it is silly.
No,
And it's the same, because we have exactly the same in the British Legion and other things like that. No, we don't want to have anything to do with you, which is a great pity. And I think it's a great pity if we can't get a joint bonfire on the bloody
We'll
hill.
send our starman in to East Brent.
You could tell National Trust that we'll put the monument on the burnt grass.
Will you be the guy?
Sounds as if I am.
No, that's right.
Have a memorial brick within the new shop.
We want a memorial thing for him. Right.
Thanks, John. Okay, so you'll have a think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
We'll
Before
talk.
we take it forward, I think it is important, Bob, that
Yeah.
we do that. And say, look, for God's sake, let's get it through with this.
If the village hall wants to work with,
Well,
we'll be happy
we do it
to.
all together as a village thing, for Christ's sake.
Okay.
Would it be good if I back up with an email to Jim Murray saying that we'd like to talk to him possibly? Then that backs up what you were saying.
Get involved in your new best friend. Okay.
It's nearly time to go home.
Can't want a new little bit outside his house.
Yeah.
That is not true. Actually, it was one of Tony Hill's requests, but on the corner where we've got the new signs now going, Knoll via Church, Knoll via Car Park.
John Hughes.
We've got Tony Hill.
No, John Hughes, not on that
On
corner.
his house.
No, John Hughes' house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just above you.
Yeah.
Church Lane.
And there's a nice sign called Hill Lane, but then underneath there's a horrible looking litter bin, which is, it is regularly emptied, but it's a bit of an eyesore. Please, may I have your permission to buy a new litter bin? It will be black with a bit of gold on it or something like that. The cheapest one is 357 quid, that's without the